Hi students, and welcome to your next math lesson. Today we are in chapter 7 and we are looking at lesson 2, order of operations. Your objective today, students will be able to write and evaluate numerical expressions. Students will be able to use the order of operations to evaluate expressions. So let's take a look at our objective. So another way to state this objective is to say that we are evaluating numerical expressions. And we looked at those words yesterday in our first lesson. Evaluating is when we find the value of a set of numbers. Numerical expressions are combinations of numbers and at least one operation. Well, what happens if we have more than one operation in a problem? Well, we have to follow the correct order of operations, because if we don't follow a set guide on how to solve these problems, then people will get different answers because they might choose to do different operations first. So these are the agreed upon order of operations. We sometimes will hear the saying PEMDAS when we talk about order of operations. The P in PEMDAS means that anything inside of parentheses or other grouping symbols has to get evaluated first. And then you would move on to anything with an exponent, which is repeated multiplication of the same number. And then you would move on to multiplication or division. Now, the trick here is that if you have both multiplication or division, you have to go left to right. In other words, if division is on the left side of the problem, that would happen first, and then multiplication. Or it might be that you do multiplication first because it's on the left. So I write these next to each other to know that you can interchange these two letters. And same with addition, subtraction. Addition and subtraction will always come last once you get rid of parentheses, exponents, multiplication, and division. But again, sometimes subtraction is first if it's on the left side of the problem. So let's do a couple of examples. We're going to start off pretty simple today with just a few different steps. We're going to do a bunch of problems today, and then I'm going to have another video with more of the grouping symbols, and they will become a little more complex. But let's start off with today's first example. We have 10 minus 2 times 4. Now, anytime you have more than one operation, you must refer to PEMDAS, the order of operations, to see what has to go first. So what I like to do is circle the operations that I have. So I'm going to go over to my little cheat sheet, and I see I have subtraction and I have multiplication. And I would always start with parentheses and work my way down. Well, I don't have any parentheses or exponents. So the first operation I begin with is multiplication. That means I have to use the multiplication first and the numbers that surround it. So what's being multiplied? 2 times 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. Now, I used the 2 and the 4, but I have not used 10 minus. So I have to rewrite the 10 minus. And notice that I keep them on this side of the 8. If I were to move them over here, it might change the answer to my problem, and in this case it would. So now I have 10 minus 8. I did my multiplication, and subtraction is all I have left. And 10 minus 8 equals 2. So when I evaluate this numerical expression, I get an answer of 2. Notice that when we evaluate numerical expressions, when you show all of your steps, you get this nice V shape. That means that you're doing one step at a time to get to your final answer. All right, let's try another example. For this one, I'm still going to have my cheat sheet here, and it's helpful to write this as you do these problems. 24 divided by 8 times 5. All right, so what do we do first? Let's circle the operations we have. We have division and we have multiplication. And here's where things can get confusing. Because the M is first in PEMDAS, a lot of people might want to do the multiplication first. But for this example, remember that multiplication and division, if you have both of them, you go left to right like you would read a book. So I would perform the division first because it's on the left side of my problem. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. I did my division because that was on the left side. Now I would do the multiplication. 3 times 5 is 15. So 24 divided by 8 times 5 equals 15. Why did I divide first? Because when you have both multiplication and division, you have to go from left to right, like it was in a book. That way. All right, let's work another example. The thing with evaluating numerical expressions and using the order of operations is that every problem is unique. Every problem is a little bit different. So there is no one size fits all way to do this. You have to always remember to follow the correct order. So you might be doing things mixed up than you did in a different problem, and that's okay, as long as you follow this set of directions. So for this example, 50 minus 20 divided by 2 times 3. So I added in another operation to increase the level of difficulty. What do I have? I have subtraction, division, and multiplication. So when I go down PEMDAS, multiplication or division would go first. The subtraction has to go last because it's the last step of PEMDAS. So I am not performing 50 minus 20. No. I'm not doing that first because it's the last step. I have to do my multiplication and division before subtraction. So it's weird because you're not doing the first number you see here. You might be going toward the middle or the end to begin. So where do we focus? Multiplication and division are kind of like twins. So you would perform whichever one is on the left side of the problem, but still subtraction is last. So I'm ignoring that. I'm ignoring the 50 minus because that has to be last. So multiplication division would go left to right. So what's on the left side? The division. 20 divided by 2 is our very first step. And 20 divided by 2 equals 10. So I finished the division. But what I'm going to do is rewrite all of the parts I didn't use. I did not yet use the 50 minus, and I did not yet use times 3. So now I have to decide which of these operations go next. Well, I didn't get rid of this multiplication yet, so I have to do that next. Remember, subtraction will be my very last step. So let's multiply 10 times 3. And 10 times 3 is 30. Multiplication is done. And now I can rewrite what I haven't used, 50, minus the 30 that I had. Notice that I keep 50 on this side of the problem. If I switch it over here, it can affect my answer. So now I can do the last step and subtract. 50 minus 30 equals 20. So when I evaluate this numerical expression, 50 minus 20 divided by 2 times 3, I get an answer of 20. And look at that beautiful V shape. That shows me that I've gone step by step. All right. Trying to do these mentally might work for some people, but not very many people. So showing each step, and you could even say, this was the step where I divided. This is the step where I multiplied. And this is the step where I subtracted, to show that you've done each step. Okay, now let's add in something else to the mix. So all of those examples were just the basic 4 operations. Now let's look at an example that uses parentheses. All right, so I'm still going to do my little checklist. I do have parentheses, and I have multiplication, and I have addition. Now, be careful, because parentheses will always go first. We evaluate what's inside of parentheses, and that has to be our very first step. So when we evaluate what's inside of the parentheses, what are we doing? We're using that addition with the parentheses. Okay, so I know I said addition, subtraction is always last, unless they're in parentheses. Then they might not be last. Parentheses have to go first. So I'm taking 3 plus 9, which is 12. And then I did not yet use the 7 or the times. So that's all I have left now is to multiply. And 7 times 12 is 84. So this was a 2-step problem. The first step was adding to get rid of the parentheses. The second step was multiplying. Let's look at another one. This will be the final problem for today, and then we'll get into some more complicated problems tomorrow. All right. I'm going to make the level of difficulty just a little lower. Okay, so we have 2 times parentheses 9 to the second power minus 4, close parentheses. We have a lot going on. We do have parentheses. Inside of the parentheses, we have an exponent, we have subtraction, and then outside of the parentheses, we have multiplication. And here's again where things get goofy. Subtraction will not be the very last thing because the subtraction is in parentheses. So if you have operations in parentheses, it changes that order just a little bit. What would be the very last part of this? Multiplying by 2, because everything inside the parentheses gets evaluated first, and then we take 2 times what we get. So let's work it. Inside of my parentheses, I have 2 different things. I have an exponent and I have subtraction. Exponent is before subtraction. So 9 to the second power is not 18. It's 9 times 9. 9 times 9 is 81. Be careful there. Remember your exponents. So I'm going to rewrite everything that I haven't used, including this parenthesis. So I got rid of my exponent. Now I need to get rid of my parentheses, which includes the parenthesis and the subtraction because the subtraction's inside. 81 minus 4. 77. Then I have to go back and do my multiplication and take 2 times 77. So the numbers are a little larger here, but it's still the same method. And we could, of course, take 77 twice. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1 is 15. So we get 154. We still have that nice V shape. And we've done all of our steps in order. So this is a more complicated problem. So what do I need for you to remember for today? I need you to remember that there is a correct order to evaluate numerical expressions. And if you don't follow that correct order, you're likely to get the problem wrong. I also need for you to remember that if you have parentheses, whatever is inside of them has to get evaluated first. It's like a problem within another problem. And then I need you to remember that if you have both multiplication and division, once the parentheses are gone, that you would do whichever is first in the problem on the left, then you go to the right. Same with addition subtraction. Once you're down to only addition subtraction, you go left to right, whichever one comes first. All right. I hope you found this helpful. We will increase the level of difficulty tomorrow and add more grouping symbols like brackets and braces. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.